Hello and welcome to this episode of My Spectrum Life podcast. We're so excited for all of you to be here with us. My name's Jessica, and I am an autism mom to an amazing 12-year-old boy. With me is my co-host, Kelsey, who is a registered behavior technician. And I didn't even read that off the notes. And yeah, she's pretty much kind of like a part of our family. I mean, after you were at our house almost every day for what? Almost 3 years?
I think 3 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Until you moved. Even then I kept in contact.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, goodness. Tonight we have a guest, Jennifer, who's a dietitian. How are you doing, Jennifer?
I'm doing good. Thanks.
Good. Okay. Oh, so I'm looking at my notes now, and I left the term for tonight blank because, well, there's a term we all know, and we don't really have to define it. Picky eater.
Yeah.
I think a good portion of us, just with children in general, have to deal with picky eaters. And then you add autism and sensory processing on top of that. And it's the whole textures, and it doesn't smell right. And I mean, you put cauliflower in front of my child and he's out the door. He won't touch the stuff. He thinks it's evil and is going to kill you or something. Not really, but you know. Goodness. He eats, well, it's funny. We have to steam the broccoli.
Okay.
And we have to cut just the, we call it trees. He will not eat the stems of the trees.
That's the most
He'll eat the top part of it, but he will not eat the stems.
Well, cauliflower is just a lighter version of broccoli.
Yeah, you can do. I'll let you do that one. Next time you can sit there and have an ABA session with them about cauliflower.
Yeah, no.
Yes, we like to have fun, as you can see. So, but I guess maybe we should get into the actual meat of the subject. Ha ha.
Ha ha, I see what you did there.
Yeah. Hey.
Unintended, huh?
Yes, it was. So, Jennifer, how did you get started in the field of nutrition?
Well, believe it or not, I suffered from an eating disorder from the time, ninth grade through college, first year of college. And I actually started out, I struggled to find a major. But in getting help with my eating disorder, I found my way to nutrition and was stuck.
That's awesome.
So
that's amazing. That is awesome that came about that way, because God uses the craziest things to become good.
Yeah. I have no idea.
So, well, we've talked about the picky eaters, and I think a lot of us will have 2 or 3 things. Like here at my house, it's Kraft macaroni and cheese, and it can only be Kraft macaroni and cheese, and it can only be elbow-shaped macaroni. If it's not elbow-shaped,
no,
it's not, no go. Yeah. And it can't be anything but normal. You can't have the white kind. It has to be yellow. That's a common thing with autism. It has to be very, very the same, but it's Kraft mac and cheese, chocolate boost, eggs with a hat, and hamburgers. Hamburgers is the current, it's the current thing right now. Phase, that's what it is. Phase, that's the word the word wouldn't come to me, and Derek's trying to whisper something and I can't. Not with these things. But that's what we're in. I mean, you can't change the macaroni and cheese and the chocolate boost. Those don't change. The other two, it kind of depends on the day. Any ideas on how we can find our kids something else to eat?
Well, the boost and the macaroni and cheese I really got no issue with, because the boost is going to get some vitamins and minerals and some other nutrition it needs. The macaroni and cheese, honestly, not the worst food. I mean, obviously it's boxed and processed, but it's not the worst food you could have in portion. The hamburgers, it's really about, so what is missing are just some of those other food groups like fruits and vegetables. And that's difficult sometimes with all kids, even especially in, the generations that we have now. So we have entire generations of kids that have grown up only in sort of this food culture that we have today. And that's really chicken nuggets and, those kinds of foods. And so it's really sort of an issue with all kids. And so our kids with autism, well, they've grown up in that world as well. And so those are sometimes the things that they navigate to, but then they get fixated on that because, again, of all those other sensory issues. And so, sometimes even with other kids, there are some things that, we do. And just like when I worked for the University of Missouri Extension, we had this life size, like we would go into these schools across the state of Missouri and build this ginormous walkthrough nutrition guide with the kids. Okay. And we noticed that kids who, we had a whole garden section and we had a farmer who talked about that. And because kids who were active in gardening were more apt to eat those vegetables that they grew. And so sometimes even with our children who suffer from autism, so, allowing them to go to the grocery store with you and pick out some of these other vegetables or fruits, and then going back and talking about it. So even if they don't eat it the first time, they've had a part to play in the process of picking that food out, helping to prepare it. And then it's provided whether eat it or not that time, they might. We're introducing these foods to them and allowing them to have a say in that and a part in that as well. Some of these newer foods.
That makes sense. Kind of like this beginning exposure.
Yeah.
Kind of leading up to that, because I know Curtis has gone through I know there's feeding therapy. In some places you can get that as a part of, we had that as a part of speech, and depends on your occupational therapist will sometimes provide it. Sometimes speech therapy places will provide it. And of course, it's all dependent on your insurance. I know in South Carolina, the TEFRA covered it. I have yet to get to that stage here in Tennessee. We'll see what happens with that. But they were always talked about exposure, and we kind of have a deal right now with Curtis. He has to have at least 1 to 2 bites before he can go and grab the mac and cheese.
That's great. That's
so
great.
At least he's tried it.
Yeah, exactly. At least he's tried it. Even like I said, adults and children without autism, I'm amazed how many of my adult patients have weird issues with food. And I always tell them, okay, well, scientifically speaking, it takes the body 12 times to really know we don't like something. So you may not like it today, but you might 10 days from now. So don't just give up on the food. And our kids, especially with autism, it's the same way, and if we, part of it's also sort of taking away the anxiety, and, that we might be portraying, because it's tough if you're trying to get them to, so they might be feeling they're already anxious about this food. And then if we have that anxiety and that feeling as well, then that comes across to them, and that can make a difference as well. So if we have a relaxed atmosphere with the food, and okay, you don't try it, okay, whatever, and so making that a little more ease and fun for them too, so that they don't get caught up in our mood and our emotions of, man, I just wish you would eat this.
Yes. Okay, I will admit, yes, that has been me a time or two.
Yeah, but seriously, with my dogs, I'm like mommy dearest. I'm like, we're gonna sit here all night, but you're gonna eat that food. it'll still be there in the morning. You're going to eat that, and it's with my dogs. And so I can do that with my dogs because it's like you ain't walking away from that food. Mama
Oh,
dearest.
goodness.
But yeah,
I f-
it's like one of these, so often food becomes this thing.
yeah.
And I think we just, even, as a WIC dietitian, one of the things that I would notice is, we sort of make their plates the way we make our plates. But that's overwhelming to a child, to a young person, because it shouldn't be. They should have their portions and their sizes and not mine. And the other thing is, when we allow them, so instead of making their plate for them, I love some traditional Italian restaurants or some traditional Asian restaurants because it's family style. And so you just put the food on the table. They dip out their own portions and their own food.
Yeah.
And again, there's a little bit ownership there. There's hey, instead of, okay, I'm going to put this on your plate and you're going to eat it. Or you're going to bite. Okay, but then that sort of gets into that, that friction, that anxiety that they're already facing or feeling.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, I don't know. I grew up with the plates being put on the table and us scooping out, and that old saying, make sure your eyes aren't bigger than your stomach.
Yeah.
What about you, Kelsey? Did you have get to dish out for yourself, or?
We did. My mom had a rule in the house. We had to try food 7 times before we said we didn't like it. And like peas and lima beans, my mom figured out from a baby that I didn't like it. But I would have to eat like 2 or 3, which makes it easier because now it's in soups and other things. It's no longer a texture issue. I realize it takes like the soups, but it's really cool because we got to ownership. She's like, you got to have this amount and you have to have at least 2 veggies on your plate and maybe a meat. I didn't like meat for a texture reasons. I can't stand fat and grit. So until I was 6 years old, I did not eat meat. And she kept trying, but she never pushed the issue. She's like, whenever she's ready to eat, she'll eat.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, my parents are having ribs one day. And I was like, what's that? She's like, oh, it's chicken. Because I would eat chicken. But she's like, oh, it's chicken. And I'm like, okay, grab it. I'm like, this is awesome. Ever since then, I've eaten meat. But even then, I'll cook peas and for my husband, and I'll still put 2 or 3 on my plate, like just to say I ate them. But my mom did it really well. She never made it a battle. Never made it a battle. She's like, you'll eat what you eat. If not, you can get it in your fruits and your snacks. I'm not worried about it as long as your calories are right. I'm all right.
Yeah, I know that, right? I mean, as a parent, I can say that I am not the best at that. It's tough sometimes trying to find something that, like, for instance, this is a question. I know Curtis is very limited in what fruits and vegetables he will eat. So what can we do to help with that? I mean, because I know part of it is texture, but like, I'm not going to force the whole cauliflower thing because there's no point in it.
Right.
Well, there's plenty of other vegetables.
Yeah. What other things could I bring up that he might potentially like when there is a texture issue there? Any ideas for us?
So, again, allowing him to, at the grocery store, sort of touch and feel, which I don't know, during COVID, people might not appreciate that. But, allowing him to touch and feel the food and get an idea for it. It's going to sound silly, but making a game of it, or even a silly song, just involving him and allowing him to, just experience a little bit more. Even farmers markets. And orchards, those types of things are just really great experiences that gets them out there with the food and allows them to, really touch and feel. And, if he pulls a grape off the vine or whatever and has a bite, it's like, oh, I don't like that. Okay, toss it to the side. But just allowing them to have a little fun with the food, touch it, feel it, make it a game, make it fun. And then sort of, when you have like at snack time, if like their snack is chips, okay, well, with that chip, offer a protein, offer a vegetable, offer a fruit, so that they have a choice and they can try those other things.
Right.
And just continue to introduce and reintroduce. And at some point, maybe that will stick, because as you know, sometimes they change. Sometimes, okay, like now you said he's going through hamburgers. Okay, well, maybe at some point he will go through an apple phase, or, whatever. And because at this point, it really is just trial and error. But I love what Kelsey's mom did for her. I love that back then she had the forethought to really just allow Kelsey to eat when she was ready, and to try those things. And even if today she doesn't like it, or like all of it, it's okay, because she'll still eat it, but she still eats other things and gets the nutrition she needs. And we just sort of have to, because I will tell you, there are lots and lots of kids that don't have autism, that still have terrible, terrible diets, and they're not getting everything they need because, again, of these issues with just picky eaters, or, even children without autism. Man, that meat, that texture of meat is just really hard for a lot of little kids. That's okay. I think that we also want to make sure juice, got to limit those liquids. When we definitely got to limit that juice, because they'll get full on those things. And that can mess with their appetite, and that can mess with their eating, and they're wanting to do these other things because they're drinking all day long. And especially if it's something like juice, even if it's all natural juice, it's all natural sugar. And they're just getting a steady flow of that, and then not as likely to eat or want to eat as what you might put down. Sorry, that's my dogs.
No worries.
I'm sorry. I hope Derek working magic. I hope you can get that out.
Nah, it's life. So one of the things I know that we can, that I'm sure you deal with in the school, Kelsey, I deal with at home, and you used to tell Curtis mind over matter, but he's just told me now flat out, he just says, I have a weak mind. I can't do this. Lunchtime, ADHD meds. They suppress your appetite.
Big time. Yeah.
So is there anything small but really good that we could give our kids that might, I've seen energy ball type recipes where it's like,
those are fantastic. And if you can get them to like some of those, they're great, because, there's a little bit of nutrition there. And especially if you home make them, you can make them as healthy as you want them to be. Sometimes we do rely on, like you do the boost. So sometimes we rely on those types of products as well. Carnation breakfast drink, those kinds of things, just to give them a little something, so that they're getting some nutrition, but it doesn't have to be a lot. Sometimes we think that a meal, it has to be a meal, but in reality, that can be, like a little bit of fruit, or a little bit of vegetable, and a little bit of cheese. Often my lunch is some carrots and some kind of fruit and tuna and crackers. Okay, so technically that's, more like a snack kind of thing, but that's my lunch. That's a meal for me a lot of times. So, we sort of have to rethink our thoughts of what is a meal, and think, okay, well, I can pack a whole lot of nutrition in a little snack or a little meal to help them with that, not not feeling like they want to eat something.
So quality over quantity.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. That makes sense.
It does.
That actually makes me, I think that should give a lot of us parents a sigh of relief. It's okay
does.
if they're not eating a whole entire Happy Meal.
Like, isn't it, you're supposed to eat 6 meals a day? So you have your breakfast, your snack, which is considered a meal, your lunch, another snack, and then your actual light meal. Because isn't dinner your lightest meal before you go to bed?
It kind of should be. So, you know, a lot of Europeans, what we notice is lunch really is their biggest meal.
Correct.
So, you know, they put less emphasis on breakfast and less emphasis on dinner, and they put a lot more emphasis on that lunch meal.
Right.
And so for most of us, autism aside, 3 meals a day is all we need. And if you think about when we grew up, you know,
Right.
I might be older, the oldest one on this conversation, but growing up, you know, we didn't have access to all the food we do today.
Right.
And so we don't need all of this. Now, with autism, sometimes you don't want to wait till those hunger pains happen for them. So maybe feeding that every, you know, 2.5 hours, a little snack. So that's where that can come into play for them. So not allowing them to get to that hunger part. We're fine to get to that hunger part.
Right.
But then, you know, maybe setting a feeding schedule every 2.5 hours so that they don't get hungry, or, you know, and even making that visual, because they're very visual. So maybe making that schedule out with them, and it's there and it's in front of them and it's in their face. But yeah, for them, they need those. But for the rest of us, yeah, lunch should be, it just isn't always for me because of work.
Yeah.
Because of work. I go to sleep. It doesn't matter if it's high protein, low carb, low sugar. I want to go to sleep. And I'm like, I'm eating at 11 o'clock. I still have 3 hours with these kids. I can't go to sleep after this. So it's nothing but high protein. Like I eat like fish, peanut butter, like high protein lunches just to be able to have that energy to finish out the school day with them.
Right.
Because otherwise I'm like, no, just let me go to sleep. No.
Yeah.
No.
I find myself skipping lunch because we're so intent in trying to get other things done.
Right.
And I know that's not good.
Yeah, well, that is part of the issue with us in America, is that, you know, we got to a point with our lives, our jobs, where we did start skipping meals.
Yeah.
And, you know, the body is very, very scientific on the inside. We don't treat it that way, but it is. And I think I've told you this, Jessica, and I say this to my patients every day. You know, scientifically speaking, bread and potatoes, carbohydrates in and of themselves, are not a problem and did not cause us these problems.
Right.
Jesus is called the bread of life, and manna is called the bread of heaven, not the meat. So, really?
Why are you taking my carbs away?
We ate them up until 1980 with no issues. So, you know, we have to think about what the whole entire body needs.
Right.
And for our children with autism, and even us, man, it's everything. The body requires everything. And for their little growing bodies, any way that we can help them, you know, is all we can do. Because they need it all. Their little growing bodies, you know, constipation is sometimes an issue for them because they are so particular. So you know, they need those whole grains. They need that fiber to continue to help, you know, with those areas. And that's where some of those little energy balls can come into place, because you can hide some fiber in there.
Yes.
So what kind of, would you, like, let's say they don't do energy balls, but they love smoothies. That's another perfect way to hide for.
Just
what nutrition or ingredients would you include to get some of those fibers that you're talking about to help them out?
Okay. So look for your fibrous types of vegetables and fruits, the ones that you know, those vegetables that you can sort of mask, so that maybe, you know, there isn't a taste issue there. And sometimes using a fiber powder to just help ensure. So if they aren't eating those things and they are struggling with constipation, if they'll drink a smoothie, if they'll eat something like that, You can always add a little bit of that fiber protein in there to sort of help. And then using some of those fibrous type of vegetables and fruits to just sort of help move that along for them.
Okay.
Because that can not feel good, and that can bring about some other issues for them. You know, flaxseed, those types of things that you can hide in there. Chia seeds, those things you can sort of hide in there, and they don't necessarily have to know, or get the powders. You know, they don't have to know they're there. But you know that it's helping to give them some good stuff. Because a tummy ache from the constipation is just going to maybe exacerbate those other eating issues.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes it's hard for those on the spectrum to describe what's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember one time when Curtis told us that he felt like there was a fire-breathing dragon in his ear.
Aww.
And we're like, and then it dawned on us, oh, he's saying he's got an earache.
Yeah, my ear hurts. It's burning.
Yeah. So we went to the the after hours care, and lo and behold, he had a really bad ear infection. So we've got to pay attention to some of those things that's what I mean. We've got a lot of deciphering to do as autism parents.
Absolutely.
And even as dietitians or the medical professionals and teachers, I'm trying to figure out what it is they're communicating to us can be very difficult. So, taking some of that initiative and putting those things in, hiding them.
It's years ago, there was a push, and I remember in the schools because in my different career areas, working in the schools and working with the schools and things. And, I remember a recipe we did for spaghetti sauce where, you sort of blended up some of these vegetables and added it to the spaghetti sauce. So their kids didn't know that they were there, but they were there, and they were getting, some of that, or adding, like V8 juice, just plain V8 juice to your soups or your sauces and things like that.
That's a great idea.
And physical activity. So maybe some movement before mealtime, because that's going to get all of those things going inside their body. So it's natural, and so that can also help sometimes. So by the time you sit down, they might be like, oh, hey, I am hungry. I'm going to try this white treat with my green treat.
There you go.
Or not, like I said, there's lots of vegetables. He doesn't have to eat cauliflower. I like cauliflower, but he doesn't have to eat it.
I don't mind it either, but
And I have no issue with putting cheese on those things either. For some, that helps them to eat it as well. Okay, I got no problem with that. You can always make that cheese a little healthier,
Yes.
If 2% milk Velveeta cheese. But yeah, that helps. I remember years ago, the French, I read a study that they were doing in their schools with their little ones. And at that time, to help get them to eat more vegetables, they were actually breading and frying them. Now, I'm not proposing that necessarily, but I'm saying they were trying to get them to eat those vegetables in a way that they would. So if our kids like some cheese, put some cheese on it.
Great idea. Just as long as it's yellow cheese in my house.
Yeah, I have a lot of adults that will only eat their broccoli with cheese. I had one today. It's like, can I put some cheese on it? Yes, sir, you can.
Yes, you can.
There you go.
I mean, that's how my mom did some stuff too. We wouldn't eat broccoli, but she noticed that we would eat broccoli with hollandaise sauce at Thanksgiving. And so every time she made broccoli, she'd make hollandaise sauce, and we didn't like hollandaise sauce unless she added lemon to it. So we got that tangy. And then for what was it? I did not like spaghetti and meatballs, but mom was like, you got to have your meat with spaghetti. Like marinara is just tomato soup with noodles. Like you got to have something. And so one day we were at lunch at school, and they did the ground meat. And I was like, I came home one day, I was like, Mom, can you please just ground it up with sausage instead? Because I didn't like beef. I was like, can you please just do ground sausage instead of the meatballs? game changer all day.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I
There
love
you
that
go.
story. I love that. Your mom should have been a dietitian. She sounds amazing.
She
We-
is.
She sounds amazing.
Oh,
Very cool.
goodness.
Very cool.
That's awesome. Those are some great
That is-
ideas. And sometimes it just takes talking about our experiences to help give us some ideas of what we can do for our kiddos.
Right.
So,
What do you feel about peanut butter? I was asking about that because it's protein but high in sugar.
It's not high in sugar.
It's not.
So even Jif is like 8 grams of carbohydrate. So you also have to stop thinking of sugars in our food. So there will always be less sugars in our carbs. So you're looking at the total carbohydrates on that food label. And so Jif is like 8 grams. So in the diabetes world, we don't consider that a carb or sugar. We consider it a protein, plain and simple, just a protein.
So it's perfect for those maybe eat peanut butter crackers if they can't eat a lunch because of the ADHD and you could.
Yes.
yay! I love my Jif peanut butter.
Yeah.
That's all we have in this house.
Yeah, I eat peanut butter a lot. And at the office, I will tell on us in my office. So we will keep a jar of peanut butter, and on occasion we'll keep a bag of Hershey dark chocolate kisses.
Okay.
Spoonful of
yum.
peanut butter and a Hershey's Kiss that's like 3 grams carbohydrate. Yeah, that's a pretty nice little treat.
I think I know what I'm having for dessert tonight.
Yeah. So it doesn't undo anything good that we've been trying to do, but we still get that little sweetness.
But one thing that, love peanut butter. I'm weird in that I do not like peanuts and will not eat a peanut, but give me Jif peanut butter and it has to be Jif. It's just this weird thing I have, but and I'll eat the peanut butter all day long. And when Derek's mom would tell us, "Well, give those kids some peanut butter suckers," and I'm like, "What are you talking about? Take a spoon, scoop it in, a scoop of peanut butter. Here you go. Here's a peanut butter sucker."
Love it.
So
Love it.
my kids are like, "I'm going to go have a peanut butter sucker." Okay, just don't coat it in 3 inches of Nutella. That's the problem we are adding to the peanut butter now here. So, oh goodness. Well, it sounds like there's going to be a lot more for us to discuss here and there. But thank you so much for being with us today, Jennifer. It's been awesome to talk to you.
Thank you so much for asking me.
Now, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how can they do it?
So they can go to my email, thegooddietitian@gmail.com. And so right now, that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me is I'm in transition with my websites. To get, so I do have my own website, Healthy Fully Whole, but it's in transition right now thanks to Derek and Jessica. So I would say my email is the best way to get a hold of me right now.
Okay, so that's the gooddietitian@gmail.com.
Yes.
Kelsey, how can they get a hold of us?
You can find us on Facebook.com/MySpectrumLife, Instagram.com/MySpectrumLife, Twitter.com/MySpectrumLife1. And if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button down below.
We are. And I hope that you guys have been able to catch our Instagram lives that we've done the last couple of weeks. That's been kind of fun, hasn't it?
It has.
I think we're going to be able to hit and do a lot more of those. And if you guys ever have any topics that you want us to talk about, please drop us a line at info@myspectrumlife.com. So yeah, we'll be looking for more Instagram lives from us, and just make sure you're ready to listen to the next episode of My Spectrum Life podcast next Monday. But thank you all for being with us here today. And remember, with a lot of faith, a whole lot of love, a bunch of fidget toys, and possibly some healthy snacks, we're going to make it. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.